Good evening, parents and students, if you are watching this. This is Miss Fernandez. This is a video on one of the math games that we've played. Students, you are probably familiar with this. Parents, you might not be, but believe me when I say if you are struggling with helping your student with multiplication facts, this might be a game for you to try. Now all you need for this math game is you need some cards, specifically cards with numbers. Now this could be playing cards or which is what we use in class, but Miss Fernandez doesn't own playing cards, but I do have Uno cards. So you can use Uno cards, that's fine too. But just to, if you are using Uno cards, I'm going to tell you what you need to pull out and what you should keep. So I'm going to teach you a game that we've been playing in class called Multiplication War. Now, Multiplication War, obviously, is very simple if you've ever played Regular War. In Regular War, what you do with your cards is you try to beat your opponent by stealing all their cards. Multiplication War is very similar. Just how we play it, we tweak a few things. Now, first things first, if you are using any regular playing card deck, what I would highly suggest is you need to remove any jokers, jacks, kings, and queens, at least when you first play. You can always add those and make those special numbers later when you notice that maybe your child is mastering something, is mastering the other number cards, such as like if they're mastering their 2s and 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, 7s, 8s, 9s, and 10s, and you want to add like 11s and 12s, you can definitely add those and use one of the face cards. But when we're first starting to play, remove all face cards except the ace, because an ace card in regular playing decks, which is the 52 cards, an ace equals 1. Now, if you are like Miss Fernandez and you are using Uno cards, you want to keep all of your number cards, obviously. Keep the wild cards, but remove any other cards such as the reverse card, the skips, the draw 4s. I think that's it, the draw 4s, and just keep the wild cards, okay? Because wild cards is, at least when you're doing it using Uno cards, is going to be slightly more fun than regular playing cards. So here's how it goes. So Multiplication War, obviously you need 2, maybe 3 people, okay? And when you play, obviously one person gets one half of the deck and the other person gets the other half. So let's pretend Miss Fernandez is playing with someone, okay? And the way we do this, and we're going to ignore the wild cards for right now. I'll explain how you can use wild cards if you're using an Uno deck later. But in a regular deck, obviously if you shuffled them, you removed the face cards except the ace, all of your number cards will already have a number on it. 52 cards is really nice because it goes all the way up to 10. Uno cards, they're not as nice because you don't get up to 10, you get up to 9, but we can always adjust. So that way you can have all 12 basic facts, essentially. So in both decks, obviously, when we play Multiplication War, each person is not going to flip down one card. Each person is going to flip down 2 cards. So here's 1, and here's 2, and then here's my opponent. They flip down this card, and oops, I missed one. And this card right here, okay? So my opponent has a 4 and a 6, and I have a 6 and a 2, okay? Multiplication War works by you have to multiply your cards. So whatever you put down, you multiply your cards, and then you have to determine who has the greatest product. So for example, 4 times 6 is 24, 6 times 2 is 12. Now, if I had an opponent right here, my opponent would have won because we know 4 times 6 is 24 and 24 is greater than 12. So they would win and they get to keep those cards. Then we do it again. 7 and a 1 and 4 and a 5. All right. Now my invisible friend over there, he has 5 times 4 and I have 1 times 7. 1 times 7 is obviously going to be 7. 4 times 5 is going to be 20. All right. And then obviously my invisible friend would have won that round. Okay. Now, here's some things. Let's say, for example, Miss Fernandez flips down a 7 and a 1, and the opponent across from me also flips down a 7 and a 1. Well, now we're at a standstill. Now, unlike in war, where in war they toss down 3 cards and then flip over that 4th card. Here, what we do is if we see something that's like this, what we do is we just flip over 2 more cards. Okay, so I have a 1 and a 0. And my opponent has a 3 and a 4. Now, 1 times 0 is obviously going to be 0, and 3 times 4 is going to be 12. So that means my opponent is the winner of this round, and they get every single card, okay? So when you get the same product as each other, so 7 times 1 is 7, and 7 times 1 is 7, then you need to flip over. Now, let's say you get the same product, but the numbers are different. So for example, let's say this opponent had 6 times 2. Let's see. So let's say let's say they had 4 times. Okay, yeah, let's work with this. So they have 4 times 4, and let's say I had, sorry, I'm trying to show you a perfect example. Where is it? Okay. Need an 8 and a, forgive me, I'm digging. Okay, I'm going to pull from my trash pile real quick. And let's say I have an 8 and a 2. Okay, so I have a 4 and a 4 and an 8 and a 2. And we should know by now, if we know our basic multiplication facts, that 4 times 4 is 16. However, so is 8 times 2. 8 times 2 is also 16. Well, what do? I'll tell you. Just like in the last round, where we had the same exact numbers, 7 times 1 and 7 times 1 equals 7, you flip over 2 more cards. Oh, that's another one I forgot. You flip over 2 more cards. That's another one I forgot. Sorry. All right. You flip over 2 more cards. So that's a 4 and a 3. And I got a 6 and a 0. So my 4 and 3, which is 12, beats my 6 times 0 because 6 times 0 is 0. So my opponent would win, which is kind of hilarious. Miss Fernandez is obviously not very good at this game because somebody who's not there is beating me. So that's kind of the basics, the basic rules. Now you're probably wondering, well, Miss Fernandez, what if I want to challenge myself? Or if you're playing with your parents and your parents are like, well, Miss Fernandez, I want to really challenge my student. Well, if you are playing with Uno cards, we have the wild card. If you are playing with regular playing cards, that's where those jacks, kings, and queens will definitely come into play. All right. So if you are playing with a 52 card deck and you still have those jacks, kings, and queens, I suggest just picking 2 face cards, whether that's jacks and queens or kings and queens, something. All right. But pick 2 face cards, and those can be your 11 and 12s. Now, if you really want to challenge your students, you can make jacks zeros or something. Or if you want to go slightly higher, you can make them 13s. So if you really want to challenge your student. But if we're just sticking with 1 through 12 in the regular 52 cards, then I would highly suggest that using your jacks, your kings or queens as 11s and 12s. And obviously, let the student or your parents know, hey, queens are considered 11s, kings are considered 12s, or jacks are considered 11s, and queens are considered 12s, okay? Now, if you are using Uno cards, like Miss Fernandez here, keep your wild cards. Now, notice I did not, I purposely left out the draw fours. I did that on purpose because I know some students, they'll get distracted by the draw fours. So I just leave the regular wild cards out, okay? And the reason why I'm saying leave the regular wild cards out if you are using Uno cards is because if we remember in Uno does not have 10s, 11s, or 12s. Your wild card can, guess what? Be a 10, 11, or 12. So let's say Miss Fernandez flipped over her card and she got a wild card, and then this person got 5 times 9. Well, now Miss Fernandez can use her wild card and go, you know what? My wild card is going to be the number 12, let's say. This is going to be the number 12. So 5 times 9 is 45. 5 times 12 is 60. You should automatically know who won. That would be Miss Fernandez. Now Miss Fernandez finally gets some cards in her pile. So she is not out of the woods yet. Okay? So that is how you could use the wild cards in Uno. All right? Or if you're using Uno cards for multiplication war. But essentially the premises is the same thing. So see, look. 9 times 1 is 9. 8 times 3 is, let's see, if Miss Fernandez remembers, that is 24. So I win this round as well. Okay? Now, parents, I know there's some students out there who, you know what, multiplication facts are not their strong suit. So if you want them to practice first using their multiplication chart, that's fine. But then I would highly suggest slowly but surely students start leaving behind the multiplication chart and start focusing on numbers that you do know. So if you know your threes facts real well, and parents, this is absolutely up to your discretion. If you know you want your student to work on their 3s and 4s, then take out all the, then just focus on a lot of 3s and 4s. So make sure most of the problems have 3s and 4s. So that means if you want to take out like the 0s and the 1s and stuff, but leave like the 4s and 3s out, then make an extra pile where it's just 4s and 3s. So like, for example, let's say Miss Fernandez struggles with her 8s. So what she would do is she would split up she would leave at least one pile where it's just all 8s. Just for example, so let's say she's creating a pile of just 8s. So here's another pile, here's another pile. Okay, and you can still do multiplication war. It's just this time, instead of having 2 piles, you have 3 piles. One with your regular cards, and then one where it's just all the 8s. So every problem has to have an 8 in it. All right, so, and I can show you. So like, for example, so let's say this is my 8s pile. And let's say this is my deck. Okay, and I'm playing with my opponent, and it's time to flip over a card. All right, I have my 8s over here, and obviously you can split the 8s evenly between you guys, but see, look, now I have 8 times 0, and my opponent has 8 times 1. 8 beats 0 because 8 times 1 equals 8, and 8 times 0, we should know, is always going to be 0. So that's just another challenge. If you really want to challenge yourself, is make sure that every problem has a certain number. You can definitely do that. Probably would be easier if you use Uno cards if you're interested in doing that. You could probably try it with your playing cards. Then I would just use those extra face cards though, however, and say, hey, your extra face cards are going to always be the number 7 or the number 3. So anytime they flip over a face card, it would be of like, let's say, for example, 5 times, and there's like a queen, and we said, hey, all face cards are considered 3s, then it would be read as 5 times 3. But at the end of the day, this is just a fun little math game to hopefully help your students with multiplication facts, because that is a big thing that we discuss in class is multiplication, and we do a lot of multiplication review. So students need to be able to be multiplying, especially since we are doing double digits times double digits now. So we should be confident in our multiplication skills. But other than that, I hope this game is useful to you guys. And if you ever decide to play it at home, obviously, I encourage you guys to play it at home. But other than that, if you have any questions, or maybe students, if you have suggestions on how to make this game slightly more challenging so you can beat your parents, let me know. And parents, I hope this game is fun and helps your student be successful with multiplication. Other than that, you know how to contact me if you have any questions. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me, it's dusty. But other than that, I will see you all very soon, and I hope this was very helpful. And other than that, good luck with your game and multiplication. All right. Yeah, other than that, good luck. Bye.